So it's been almost 3 years since I moved to Poland, all the way back in 2023. I came here as a Russian citizen, and even though I made videos about my impressions and some vlogs, I never really spoke about my life here as an immigrant. So in this video, I want to share my journey and my experiences. I'll divide everything into pros and cons for simplicity. But before we start, even though this video will have criticism of the country, I really don't mean anything bad by it. I really like Poland, I like living here, and this isn't me complaining, but just being objective. So yes, you Mr. Polish nationalist, just relax, get some tea, and please don't tell me to go back to my country. And our first pro is safety. I lived in many different countries, and Poland just feels really safe. I can go out at like 2 AM without any sort of fear. You know, it just feels nice to walk around a Christmas market without worrying that a local engineer will drive a truck into it. A lot of people back in Russia, including my family, were really worried about me going to Poland. A lot of Russians believe Polish people hate them and eat little Russian children for breakfast, but honestly, I've never had any negative experiences regarding my nationality here. Everyone has been super nice to me and I've never received any sort of hate. Anyway, now we're moving on to our first con, and that is bureaucracy. So, foreigners in Europe need to apply for a residency card in order to live here. Without this card, it's very difficult to leave the country, and you needed to open bank accounts and stuff like that. Now, in Germany, you apply for them and get them in a few weeks. But in Poland, I had to wait a whole 2 years before getting mine. Yes, not months, years. I couldn't leave the country to visit my family, I couldn't work, and overall had to live in this sort of limbo. The foreigners office that manages all of this has 1.9 stars in Google. A lot of foreigners just leave the country because it's impossible to get your documents. And like, yeah, you can say you don't care or that's good, let those Indians or whatever go back to their country. But this also prevents a lot of very qualified and good people from coming here as well, which isn't ideal, I think. Oh, and even once your card is ready for collection, it's still extremely difficult to receive it. I had to join a queue outside the building at like 4 AM as it was raining, just so I had a chance to get a ticket to collect my card. It's common for people to come at like 5 AM and end up not getting a ticket as they just run out. Now, there are a lot of excuses to make, like COVID or Ukrainians, but objectively right now it's just bad. Now, the next pro is free education. Back in Russia, most students have to pay to study in university, but in Poland, citizens can study for free. Now, as a foreigner, I can also study for free if I pass a C1 Polish language exam from the government. And I went ahead and did just that back in 2024, and I've been studying for absolutely free in a Polish university. It's just crazy that as a Russian citizen, I have a better access to education in Poland than I do in Russia. Now, our next con would be affordability. Here is a map of how affordable housing is in relation to how much you earn. As you can see, the situation in Poland is very, very bad. Stuff like groceries are definitely cheaper than in the West, but as a country that was forced to live under communism for 50 years, you can't expect a similar quality of life. Poland is developing very fast though economically, and hopefully this gets better in the future as well. And regardless, the quality of life is still very good compared to outside the EU, so I'm not going to complain. Now, the next pro is a bit funny, but I really like that there are very few foreigners here. Anytime I take a train to Germany, the percentage of foreigners on the train just rises exponentially. When I walk around Dresden, it feels like half of the people are not Germans. A lot of them don't even speak German. But in Poland, I feel like I'm, well, in Poland, surrounded by Polish people and Polish culture. I know it's funny to say this as an immigrant myself, but this is good. It's nice to integrate and assimilate into a society which is homogeneous. Like, if I'll be a Polish citizen one day, I would also want to live in a country where everyone is on the same wavelength. Now, moving on to our last con for today, and that is security. You know, we don't live in a fairy tale. Poland has been partitioned many times before, and there is no guarantee that other countries won't attempt to do so again. It just feels like the world is becoming more unstable and the possibility of war is just rising with every year. But for now, Poland is safe, and I hope that it remains like that. And our last pro for today is that Polish people are very nice and polite. I really like this about them. I can always spot a Russian or a Ukrainian in a crowd, because oftentimes they'll just have this face of, I hate you, I hate myself, and I hate my life. But Polish people, to me, on average, are just way nicer, polite, and less barbaric. In general terms, obviously. But yeah, I think that is it for now. Thanks for watching, and check out my other videos in Poland if you're interested, and see you around. Cheers.